If I remember correctly, my grandmother was 7 on the island of Okinawa when a little boy and a fat man changed the course of history forever. While she was never in any direct physical harm from the bomb's explosions, her culture was. Soon after, the country she was born to brought centuries of tradition to a halt and surrendered to the United States, ending the war. My grandmother passed away some time ago. I never had much contact with her, so I was never able to ask her about her life. Something I would have asked her about would have been her eventual migration to the United States. I do know that she came here before the year 1964, since that was the year her son, my dad, was born. However, how much earlier? I'm not sure. Regardless, the year 1959 was the year Barbie was introduced into the world. Even if my grandmother made her way to the States the year my dad was born, she still would have experienced the birth of Barbie to a much more potent degree than anyone watching this video, to anyone on the platform, to be frank. This aspect of her life is something that never held any interest in me until very recently. The reason being, my grandmother is amongst the few people in history to encounter first-hand the yin and yang of the original OppenBarbie experience. Originally, when I started writing this video, I planned on evaluating the so-called OppenBarbie effect by talking extensively on the psychology that one might feel when viewing both films. However, as I contemplated that point of interest, I kind of fell short with directly defining what the effect was. In short terms, it was just watching something that made you feel sad and then something that made you feel happy. While I'm capable of writing about that topic, the video would not have been worth viewing in my opinion. So, rather than writing about what the effect is, I discovered a much more fascinating topic in what causes the phenomenon. While the movies coming out on the same day was born purely from coincidence, it created ripples in the universe as to what this movie means to people. It's like if The Terminator and Meet the Robinsons, or Titanic and Battleship, came out on the same day. Both depict similar settings, but the messages could not be farther apart. That's how it is with Oppenheimer and Barbie. However, settings are not what intertwine them like the latter example, rather, something else. Power and control. These movies are similar in their clear definitions of power in their universes, but perpendicular in the depictions of control throughout the story. While it is comforting to have an understanding about the alleged OppenBarbie effect, we're here to dig deeper and ask the harder question. If the what is the effect, power, and control, then the why has yet to be discovered. Today, instead of settling with the surface level information we can gather from watching the movie once or twice, we will ask the difficult question: how and why does the themes of power and control interconnect the two films in something that resembles yin and yang, creating the OppenBarbie effect? I think it is important to define the frame of reference for yin and yang in order to analyze how OppenBarbie falls into that mold. Yin and yang is a philosophical concept from Chinese origin that describes opposite yet interconnected forces. Yin is often depicted as the negative and dark part of the ideology, while yang is seen as the positive and bright. A quick glance at the two worlds in these movies and we can start to see how this falls into place. To better visualize the big picture, I will break down each movie into 3 key moments. With introductions and prefaces finally out of the way, let us begin our exploration of yin and yang in OppenBarbie. P.S. Spoilers ahead. This is your warning. It is almost natural that my train of thought surrounding this movie follow the themes of power. Not only is the story that is presented in the movie one that derives from having power and the consequences said possession could have on your life and those around you, but multiple other aspects surrounding the film itself exemplify power. This movie made history, being shot entirely in 70mm IMAX film. A powerful statement that will set the bar for many movies to come. The fact that this movie was shot in such high quality, the necessity to experience the film as it was intended practically commands viewers, or one could say controls viewers, to go to select screenings and pay extra money to see the film on the correct screen. The amount of high-profile actors in this movie is something that resembles the introduction of super teams in the NBA, a change to strategy that began a new era of power and dominance. This might all seem off track or worthless in the grand scheme of this video, however, I argue that it is almost necessary. Elaborating how incredibly powerful this movie is only further empowers and sets the grand scale of power and control in this film. And nothing about this movie better sets the scale than the opening sequence that unfolds. The camera snaps open without a sound, revealing a cold stone path that is being rained on. The color tones are blue and gray as the water droplets make contact with the puddles that are already well populated, almost resembling the horrors to come. As the single droplet crashes into the ground, a shockwave erupts, moving all out of its way, creating ripples on the earth. The camera cuts to a shot of Oppenheimer's face. We are positioned closer to the ground as if we were looking up at a titan or god. Oppenheimer is staring in either confusion or horror as he observes the ripples crashing into each other like waves in the ocean or particles in a chain reaction. Then the film cuts again. A close-up of a nuclear bomb going off is what meets our eyes. The camera is zoomed in close, and the embers are jumping out of a fiery cloud as if they're trying to escape the massive heat death that rips up the ground and creeps towards the camera ever so slowly. A quote of white letters surrounded by a black outline presents itself on the screen. Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. And for that, he was chained to a rock and tortured for eternity. If you were inclined to say this movie feels unforgiving and hopeless, I wouldn't blame you. While I was originally excited to go see a biopic or war film, as most young men across the nation were, we quickly learned in this opening sequence that this movie was much more negative and dark than we were in store for. The movie tells a story that, on the surface, is simply a biopic that is dramatic enough to attract people to watch it, but the lower we go down the iceberg acts as a delivery device for the main themes of power. The way this movie tells Oppenheimer's story formats it in a way that creates the yin narrative for the film. Rather than the use of power being hopeful and positive, it's the complete opposite. Power is used for destruction, deceit, suppression, espionage, leverage, and so much more. However, most importantly, power is lost in this movie. In stark contrast to the Barbie film, which we will cover in a moment, Oppenheimer is someone who is born in control. He is a natural genius who has a better understanding of the universe than most. Almost as an omen for the rest of the film, he uses his power to nearly murder a professor he didn't like. He is in control of the development of the atomic bomb and is able to pull strings to get what he wants, to the degree that he can get his brother involved on the project. Although it may be a little involvement, his brother was a Communist Party of America member, something that officials that Oppenheimer answered to were not keen about at all, yet he still made it happen. He started with quite a bit of power and control over his life, but quickly lost most of it. There was one sign that appeared before all of this power was lost: when Oppenheimer's love interest or mistress died. The movie explains how officially it was ruled as a suicide. However, the chances that she was murdered due to Oppenheimer's late night visit are greater than the chances of the atomic bomb setting off a chain reaction and igniting the whole atmosphere. In the scene where Oppenheimer meets with her, there's a line that fits into all of this. Jean and Robert are arguing about Oppenheimer not being around, and Jean makes the remark, "You drop in and out of my life." Now that's power. At this moment, Oppenheimer is at the height of his power. He has snuck away from his wife to meet with another woman because he wanted to. He kept this a secret from the government that is already distrusting of him because he wanted to. He showed up with little intent to patch things up or to be courteous because he wanted to, and he expected it all to go as planned because he wanted it to. In reality, Jean meets her demise through uncertain means. The government finds out, and it makes life for Oppenheimer much more challenging. During the questioning about his security clearance, this get-together is used as leverage against him, and his wife finds out about the night, adding tension to their relationship. And despite all of this being the opposite of what Oppenheimer wanted, the world left him breaking down, with tears streaming down his face, surrounded by snow in the middle of nowhere. It's not until his wife tracks him down and brings him back to the real world does Oppenheimer regain control. This moment between Jean and Robert was the beginning of the end. after this sequence, the plot and film really start to adhere to the agenda that is yin. It becomes dark, like really dark. There's a scene where Oppenheimer goes to give a speech to the people of Los Alamos after the news of the bomb landing has reached the surface. The most powerful weapon known to man has been used and all seems in control. However, Oppenheimer sees right through the veil of ignorance and recognizes reality for what it really is. The stomping of feet in the bleachers full of anxious scientists and workers waiting to hear his words fills Robert with dread as he realizes that the charred corpses of innocent civilians in Hiroshima and Nagasaki could just as easily be the innocent civilians of New York, San Francisco, or more hauntingly, Los Alamos. He begins to have flashes of the hypothetical scenario. The people who are smiling and cheering turn into imprints of ash on the floor beneath him. The sound of ambient cheers that filled his ears transforms into cries of terrors that seems inescapable no matter where he went. The once successful accomplishment that was achieving absolute power and control has just become the unforgiving and dark realization that there in fact was never any control over this power. The very power that elevated Oppenheimer to godhood can just as easily be allegedly controlled by someone else and bring him back down to earth, just like the hollowed, charred corpses that he steps in like a hole in the ground during his flashes. This moment takes the motion of events set by the death of Jean and expedites it to a staggering degree. Oppenheimer slowly loses all of his power and control. Louis Strauss, a character humiliated by Oppenheimer earlier in the movie, orchestrates a sequence of events to destroy Oppenheimer. A security hearing is held to review his security clearance. Systematically, the majority of people in Oppenheimer's lives, especially ones that he thought he could trust or individuals that only met good fortune by Oppenheimer, are meticulously questioned. These questions are framed in ways that can only produce answers that will contort their true opinions of Oppenheimer into almost fabricated statements that paint him in such a negative light it leaves him powerless. Only a handful of people are able to testify effectively on his behalf, but the majority of people who do testify leave the trial with these final words. "I'm sorry, Robert." Control and power are stripped out of Oppenheimer's hands. His once famous and praised name and title that would fill conference halls when he gave speeches has been blacklisted, preventing him from regaining any traction. He is defeated, a crushed man who once stood amongst gods. Barbie is perceived as this happy and bubbly character who enjoys life to the fullest. It is perfect after all. It's exactly how it's supposed to be. Nobody could ever break the mold that so securely encompasses Barbie's beauty and...
Do you guys ever think about dying?
In an eerie coincidence, Barbie's plot is designed in almost complete contrast to Oppenheimer. Whereas he is someone very powerful and in control, she is someone who does not have the capacity to act for herself and is under control. The opening sequence also sets the tone for this film quite well. In an effort to parody Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey, Barbie is perceived as this holy figure who will solve all of women's problems. The explanation that is given in the movie leaves no room for extra opinion or thought. All phrases used are very absolute. We then transition into Barbie Land, where every waking moment, thought, or choice that Barbie makes is under the complete control of some unknown sentient being. Unknown to her, that is. We as the viewer can tell it is to mimic the children that would play with Barbie, but for the sake of the plot, Barbie is under complete control. She does not have her own autonomous thoughts. She does not realize the aspects of her life that feel wrong, and even when she catches a glimpse of an identity, it is promptly shut down, leaving her with absolutely no control. This moment is some twisted form of rock bottom for Barbie, since it acts as the catalyst for a sudden change and influx in control for Barbie's life. Barbie stumbles upon the most angsty and hate the world kids I have ever seen in a movie. While it is tough to see Barbie berated the way she is, it is pivotal to her gaining that level of awareness she lacks. For her entire existence, she lived under a rock, Barbie believed that Barbies had fixed everyone's problems, just as it was stated in the opening sequence. She comes to find out that Barbies have actually caused more issues despite her good intentions. Once this dread sets in with Barbie, she gets her first taste of power that she has been locked away from for so long. Barbie shuts her eyes. She contemplates everything she has ever known, realizing it has all been a lie. She completes the first step of solving her problem, that is, Barbie being powerless, and acknowledges that she has no power and it is a problem. Barbie feels hopeless and distraught, and for the first time in her life, she cries. The first tear that streams down Barbie's face is a clear indicator that she in fact is progressing. Often, when psychopaths and sociopaths commit some kind of diabolical act, they remain emotionless. This terrifying aspect of someone deranged to that degree is a great frame of reference for the amount of power that Barbie just gained control of. These emotions that hurt and feel good and overall cause us to analyze ourselves keep us morally sound. Seeing Barbie cry for the first time, while it might seem like another low point for her, in actuality is striking evidence that her leap of faith into the real world has resulted in something greater than that of non-autonomous thoughts and the fear of not walking on toes. With this fleeting moment, Barbie has gained some sense of power in her world.
I just don't know who I am without you.
You're Ken.
But it's Barbie and Ken.
After some brief shenanigans with the corporate we learned has kept Barbie Land's knowledge of the real world's issues under lock and key, Barbie, ironically the child that berated her, and even more ironically, the mother of that child that has turned out to be the actual fractured connection to Barbie, find their way back to Barbie Land. While it might seem like it's going to be smooth sailing from here, Barbie encounters a brand new problem. The patriarchy. Or should I say, the patriarch Ken.
I'm just Ken. Where I see love, she sees a friend. What will it take for her to see the man behind the tent and fight for me?
Ken is a character that deserves a whole video on his own, so for now I'll keep it brief. But just as Barbie discovered her power in the real world, so did he. Barbie has now come home to find that new power in full effect. All of her friends are stuck in hysteria as the Kens have taken over Barbie Land. Barbie tries to reason with Ken in an effort to get her home back, but Ken doesn't budge. At the moment, Barbie feels hopeless and wants to give up. Another sign that she indeed is feeling potent and raw emotion. However, with the help of her new friends, she is able to devise a plan to save and wake up all of the Barbies. Once that is done, they can take back Barbie Land, but this time with a twist. Barbie regaining Barbie Land might not be a direct addition to her power of autonomy, but is spelling out clearly another aspect of the control in her life that she is gaining. Slowly but surely, she's able to save all of the Barbies in her home. For the first time, she is able to fight against something that she disagrees with. In all of the movie prior to this moment, she was either entirely shut down or ran away from her problems. While she was close to quitting here, that little amount of power that she was able to accumulate in the real world was enough to change this. Not only does she physically regain control of her home, she also acquires control of her desires and aspirations. This moment of the movie is without a doubt in my mind, and many people who have seen the film, the most powerful scene in the film. On top of that observation, it is probably the scene that exemplifies Barbie's new intake of power and her using it to its fullest extreme. After Barbie and the Barbie Brigade bounce back beyond the brink of belittling bounds, all of the Barbies begin to acquire the same autonomy that our Barbie has gained. Thanks to her trials in the real world, they can now open their eyes. Even Ken, he realizes he is something without Barbie. Everyone is blissful and excited to see their new identity and where it's going to take them. Everyone except our Barbie. In the midst of all of this celebration, our Barbie stands defeated and alone in the fear of purpose. You might have noticed that I started referring to Barbie as our Barbie, and that is because she's the only one that doesn't have some preconceived label as to what kind of Barbie she is. At this moment, all of the Barbies that have those labels now have the power to explore that label, and others if they so choose. However, our Barbie is the original. She is labeled as stereotypical Barbie. To her, there is nothing special. In a moment that parallels the scene from the Lego movie where Emmett watches what he thinks are his friends call him bland and normal, Barbie watches all of her friends find identity. And while she arguably worked the hardest and endured the most to find this revelation, she is met with an existential crisis. Who is she? However, through the despair that Barbie is feeling, walks in the creator of Barbie. The creator walks with her to a place that seems to be in between the realms of Barbie land and real life. Barbie is still afraid and lost. It seems at this moment that despite all of the power that she had gained, her efforts were futile. She found no answers or direction. She had a shred of an idea of what she wanted, but was scared and felt as if it was out of the realm of possibilities. The creator stands in front of her and holds her hands. Barbie musters up what courage she has left and finally asks if she can join the real world and begin her own journey, crafting her own identity. The creator looks at her in the eye. She is blunt with Barbie. The creator shows Barbie everything. The unforgettable joy to come, but more importantly, how everything she has just faced will pale in comparison to the difficulties ahead. A tender moment is shared as, like poetry rhyming, Barbie finishes her journey with power, with tears that fill her eyes and pour onto her face. She asks for permission once again, only to be met with the words from the creator explaining she does not need permission, and she never did. Barbara, once known as our Barbie, then takes the biggest step of her life into her first gynecologist appointment.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Existence can be viewed as a river that divides two pieces of land. On one side, you have the negative and dark side that is casted with shadows, creating a dark aura that can only be combated with its counterpart across the river that accepts the nurturing light that creates its warmth and positivity. While these two sides seem forever parallel, never to interact, the bridge that is built over the rivers allow access for the polar opposites to be interconnected without any effort. While we can find this bridge in countless aspects of our lives, one modern example that is more potent than many you will find is the yin and yang of OppenBarbie. An interesting aspect I didn't mention in my original preface was that yin, the dark and negative aspect of the ideology, is often regarded to as feminine while yang is masculine. I neglected this fact in an effort to prevent any additional confusion to my endless rambling and run-on sentences. However, looking deeper, it does correlate. In Oppenheimer, the more obviously negative and grit-ridden reality, the catalyst to the downfall of Oppenheimer is Jean. On the other side of the river, while I classify the defining moment for Barbie's awakening to be when she cries, a moment that was induced by teenage girls, I can also argue that she does not learn to grasp control of her newly acquired power until Ken gives her a reason to do so. With this being said, I can say with the utmost certainty that the mold of yin and yang is very easily filled by the dichotomy of OppenBarbie. However, not only can we confidently say that they fit the mold, we can now answer our original question. How and why do these themes of power and control interconnect the two films? The answer lies within the rise of Barbie and fall of Oppenheimer, the choices they make in response to this new shift of control, and the consequences or rewards they get once the impact of their choices become apparent. While there might not be a message in this analysis that rivals the value of the messages that are produced in the movies, an understanding of power and choices has been achieved with this realization. An understanding that might one day bear fruits that will allow me to better understand the major forces of power at play around me. Just like a little girl from Okinawa did when she regained control of her life and moved to the United States to see what power was all about. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching and listening. This video has been in production for a long time now. I started writing the script when the movies initially dropped, and I saw them pretty close to opening day, but I've gone through 3 drafts since I started writing it, and it's just been a lot to deal with school and work. And so I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and appreciating what I have crafted and what I consider to be one of the finer pieces of content on my channel. I do plan on making more videos like this. I've got a lot of ideas ready to go. Just got to write the script for it and record it. But as always, if you enjoy it, please like and subscribe, share it with somebody. But more importantly, what I've been looking at more recently, as opposed to the like and subscriber count, is the comments. I really want to interact with somebody and talk to them about the video. So if you do like the video, please comment. I want to hear your thoughts on what you think I was wrong about, what you think I was right about, what you would do differently, anything. But yeah, thank you so much. Also, hi Dari.